Good afternoon, ma'am. I'm Detective Johnny Sharkman from the San Bernardino Beach Police Department, Truancy Division, cold case specialist. This is my partner, Detective Joey Cur.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
Ma'am, we'd like to ask you about a former resident of this address some 23 years ago, a Mr. I.P. Freely.
What can you tell us about Mr. I.P. Freely? Did he live quietly?
We'd like to ask you some questions. Somebody lived at this address about 23 years ago, Mr. Oliver Closeoff.
What can you tell us about Mr. Oliver Closeoff? Did he live quietly?
What can you tell us, ma'am, about a former resident of this about 23 years ago, a Mr. Dick Hertz?
What can you tell us about Mr. Dick Hertz? Was he short?
Ma'am, we've got a few questions about a former resident here, a Mr. Harry Balzich.
What can you tell us about Harry Balzich? Was he tall?
Ma'am, we're here to ask you a few questions about a former resident here, a Jacques Strap.
Do you know anything specific about Mr. Jacques Strap? Was he athletic?
What can you tell us about a former resident, a Mr. Mike Hunt?
What can you tell us about Mr. Mike Hunt? Was he bearded?
Have you seen Mike Hunt lately? Ma'am, we're here to ask questions about a former resident, a Mike Roch. Have you seen Mike Roch?
Was there anything specific you could tell us about Mike Roch? Was he flaming?
Ma'am, we're here to ask about a former resident, a Mr. Ben Jover.
Is there anything you could tell us about Mr. Ben Jover? Did he like to come in through the back door?
Was he rough on the furniture, ma'am? Ma'am, we're here to ask some questions about a former resident here. I believe it was a Mr. Huge G. Erection. Have you seen Mr. Huge Erection?
Can you tell us anything about Hugh G. Erection? Was he stiff?
Was he tall?
Was he thick?
Was he wide?
Was he long?
How long would he last if he was in a strenuous activity, for example?
Did he often wear rubber clothing?
Ma'am, we're here to ask some questions about a former resident here, a Mr. Dick Smoker. What can you tell us about Dick Smoker?
Was there anything peculiar about Dick Smoker?
Was he a smoker?
Was he a dick?
Ma'am, we're here looking to get some information on a former resident here. About 23 years ago, a Mr. Jack Me Off. Is there anything you can tell us about Jack Me Off?
Jack Me Off? Sound familiar? Jack Me Off.
Did he leave anything behind, ma'am?
Anything on the walls? The ceiling? The headboard?
Couch? Newspaper? Kitchen sink?
Sock?
Anything? Ma'am, we're looking for someone who used to live here about 23 years ago, a Phil Lacio. Do you know anything about Phil Lacio?
Anything you know about fellatio would be greatly appreciated.
We don't get to hear enough about Phil Lacio.
We're big fans
Yes.
of fellatio.
From what we've read, big fans. Ma'am, we'd like to ask you a few questions about a former resident that lived here about 23 years ago or so, Ms. Ivana Tinkle.
What can you tell us about Ivana Tinkle? Was she active?
Ma'am, is there anything you can tell us about a former resident here, Mr. Haywood Jablomi?
Haywood Jablomi?
That's who we're looking for. Haywood Jablomi?
Haywood Jablomi.
Simple question, ma'am. Haywood Jablomi?
Answer the question, ma'am. Haywood Jablomi.
That's what we're looking for. Hey,
seen him?
Would you blow me?
Heard from him? Hey, would you blow me?
Would you
Hey,
blow me? Mr. Would you blow me? Hey, would you?
Friends called him Woody.
True. Ma'am, we're looking for a former resident of this address. Lived here about 23 years ago. A Mr. Dick goes in your ass.
Dick goes in your ass? Greek fellow?
Have you seen?
About this high?
Have you seen Dick goes in your ass?
Have you had any experience encountering Dick goes in your ass?
Any trouble with the plumbing after Dick goes in your ass?
Even accidentally?
Dick goes in your ass? Anything? Did he leave anything behind, ma'am? Dick goes in your ass. Ma'am, we're here to ask a question about a former resident here. We're looking for a Connie Lingus. Have you seen Ms. Lingus?
Anything specific you can tell us about Connie Lingus would help. It would help a great deal.
Any details you could provide about Connie Lingus?
We know nothing about Connie Lingus.
No, we really have no idea.
Neither of us.
None.
Not a clue.
Zero.
Nothing.
We hear all the time we should know more about Connie Lingus, but
You don't get much experience with Connie Lingus in our line of work.
no, you certainly don't, and certainly no one teaches you anything about Connie Lingus.
But they sure critique you afterward.
Master Sharkman, are we going to be going out to combat ne'er-do-wells again this evening?
Yes, Black Shark.
Splendid. Shall I set a course for the waterfront? We were fairly successful finding ruffians there a fortnight ago.
Yes, Black Shark.
Excellent. I'll get us there in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail, Master Sharkman. Please make sure you are properly restrained.
Yes, Black Shark.
Explaining the abundant display of ferocity.
Oh, $59!
Oh, Luminous blurs and softens the fine lines.
Hola, Senora. Mi amo es Senor Guappo. Senor muy guapo.
Hola, Senor Guappo. Senor muy guapo.
¿Dónde es el esposa? ¿Es aquí?
Mi esposa no es aquí.
Muy bien, muy bien.
Sí, señor, muy bien, muy bien.
Señora, es muy importante. Mi anclago tu paipios.
¿Es muy importante?
Oh, sí, sí, es muy importante. Tu juicios.
¿Mi juicio?
Tu juicios más de flow.
¿Mi juicio mosto floro?
Sí, sí, sí. Vámonos anclago las paipios.
Mis tubos no anclago en mucho tiempo.
¡Vámonos! ¡Mucho rápido!
Senor Guappo, mi pipos es bueno. Senor Guappo, mi pipos es bueno.
Sí, es muy bueno. ¡Rápido!
Senor Guappo, mi juices se flowing.